And I got one more Kenshin video today. Aoshi Shinomori versus Makoto Shishio. Aoshi Shinomori was the leader of the Oniwa Banshu group. They became mercenaries for hire. He lost all of his men, and then he was upset because he wasn't the strongest, the most powerful swordsman. He wanted to kill Himura Batosai. He found Makoto Shishio, knowing that Makoto Shishio knew that Kenshin was after him. So if he knew that, then he could fight against Kenshin Himura. But this scenario is, what if they just fought each other? And it wasn't even like that. Makoto Shishio became the manslayer, the best manslayer after Himura went into hiding. He was good at doing his job so well that he was killing people on his side too. He just loved to run around and kill people. And he wanted to rule through fear and manipulation. He was trying to take over Japan. Season 2 and Season 3. Season 3 hasn't come out yet. In the 96 version, he was defeated by Himura Kenshin. He's going to be defeated in this version too. But this ain't Kenshin. This is Aoshi Shinomori, who lost to Kenshin as well. We are going to see who wins this fight. Just one scenario for this one. So, strength, that goes to Shishio, Makoto Shishio. He has people in his fucking own group that tried to come for his head, and he stands on that business. He knows where they're at all times. He knows that people tried to hunt his dick. So when they pop out, he's just you failed to try to, take my head again. Hiding in the shadows like a bitch, But I knew you were there, and I, defended that. Aoshi Shinomori, he ain't doing shit like that. Aoshi Shinomori, he's, killing grunts. He killed, a couple, people. He stands on business, pretty damn well, but it ain't like Shishio. He ain't as strong as him physically. Speed, I give it to Aoshi, actually. Aoshi Shinomori slightly faster than Makoto Shishio. He was able to confuse Kenshin for a little bit. Using certain arts and shit, right? Moving around, creating doubles and shit. He could use that on Shishio. That could be a winning condition for him, his speed, right? But I got the durability. That also goes to Aoshi Shinomori, as Shishio has a handicap, or whatever, not a handicap, but he has a, disease, right? Or not a disease. He was burnt to a crisp by people who were fearful of him, who feared him. They burned him alive. But he survived. But even though he survived, he has to take, baths to cool his body down. He has to have certain treatment for his skin, because his skin's burnt. That's why he wears all those bandages around, and he looks like a mummy. But that's also a strength for Shishio, as I'll tell you later. Durability goes to Aoshi as well. Endurance goes to Shishio. Shishio knows how to fight. He's a manslayer just like Kenshin, but more ruthless and more fierce. He can play the long game if he wants to. He would sense his opponent as he's fighting him. This is how he moves. This is how he, uses his sword techniques. That's how that move works. Now I know how to defeat it. I'm, capable because I know I'm stronger than this person. As I've been fighting him for a while, he has endurance. Intelligence goes to Aoshi Shinomori. Aoshi wouldn't just go into this fight, head first. He'd be like, Makoto Shishio. You were known as this guy running around after, Kenshin Himura. He also assess his opponent, but not just to play games and shit like he does, but actually think about it. Not just to drag a fight out longer. He would, be smart and try to actually beat Shishio faster, knowing that Shishio likes to play games. He's smart. Experience, though, goes to Shishio, as he was a part of those wars as well. He ran around for a long time killing people. He does it every day. He has enjoyment from running around and killing people, cutting people down, putting people on fire. Close skills go to Shishio. He can grab Aoshi Shinomori and burn him with his hand. Close skills go to Shishio. And Aoshi has some skills too with his hand, but Shishio has that move. And he has, his own moves too. Range skills, Shishio. He can hit him with some fire. Boom! Then Aoshi's on fire and he's like, fuck. Recoup goes to Aoshi. He doesn't have that, drawback, of his skin, not needing, because he needs to take baths every day. If he didn't take his bath that day, his recoup's pretty fucking weak. And if Aoshi, somehow manages to win, which he won't, he could start to just, go up in flames like, himself. He has to take treatment and other things. He's a truly a demon and shit, as they call him in the anime. Hacks go to Shishio. He plays games with a serrated blade. He dips it in, human, flesh, that he, has, boils it down into a liquid, and then he it's able to create sparks, flames. That is some shit that people don't like to fuck around with. They don't want to fight against shit like that. Aoshi would try, but environment goes to Shishio, as he's trying to take over Japan, so he knows, which areas he wants to take over first, and, who he wants to, attack first, and everything else. He knows how to use an environment as well. But knowing this, Shishio wins. Mid to high diff. 7-4, Makoto Shishio wins. If you don't agree with that, let me know. Watch Rurouni Kenshin, the new one. Like I said in the other video, animation's great, sound effects are great, and it's canonical to the manga too. So go see that shit. Crunchyroll has it. Netflix or Hulu might have it. I don't know. But watch it and be cool on the corner.